evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. My name is Kelly McGarrix. I'm the Philanthropy Director, and I'd like to welcome you to our Kickoff Philanthropy webinar. And I also would like to thank you so much for agreeing to come on as a philanthropy content specialist for your district. So I'm super excited to be working with all of you. I know there are some people that couldn't make this, so it is being recorded. So if you need to leave in the middle of it or you want to view it again, it will be up on the Kappa website within 2 weeks. They usually try to turn those around. I know some of you are familiar with a webinar, a Kappa webinar. You may have attended one in the past. I just wanted to kind of run through a few basics for those of you that maybe haven't done it before or haven't done it in a little while. You'll see on the right side of your screen, there's an attendee control panel. On the left is the webinar viewer window. And you can minimize or expand the control panel by clicking on the horizontal double arrow in the upper left corner. So if you minimize that, it'll give you a better view of the presentation. There is a place for you to type in questions. Usually when I do webinars, I have somebody producing it. I'm going to be producing this one myself tonight, so I will do my best to remember to stop and check that question panel periodically throughout the webinar. If there is something, though, that we don't get to, or maybe if it's very specific to a chapter or association or something that maybe is just specific to your situation, I will just follow up with you after, and also if we don't get through all the questions, because I do want to be I don't want this to take too long. I know it's a Sunday evening and you may have other things you'd like to do. So, but please feel free to type in a question. You can type that in at any time. And before we get started as well, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you, I know some of you, I have talked with some of you over the phone. I know some of you in my real life, and then others of you I've either texted or only emailed so far. But again, I'm very excited to be working with each of you. I went to the University of Pittsburgh, which is where I pledged Kappa, that's Gamma Epsilon chapter. I'm originally a Pennsylvania native, and I now live outside Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia, which is pretty exciting because RIF, as you may or may not know, is headquartered in Washington, D.C., so I've already met with Jennifer Moon, our contact, and I'm going to be heading over to the RIF offices in the next couple weeks. That's pretty exciting to be that close to the RIF offices. So I live in Northern Virginia outside D.C., and in my real life, I am a wine, spirits, and lifestyle writer for a variety of magazines and websites around the country and also in D.C. And I have a diploma in wine and spirits, so it's a pretty exciting job. I really like it. I have the chance to travel to great places and taste a lot of wonderful things, so I cannot complain. I have a husband, Mike, and a 12-year-old Kappa legacy named Kiera, and a 9-year-old son named Ryan. So it's a little bit about me. So what we're going to cover tonight, this is a little bit of the rundown, and before I even go over the agenda, I just want to point out that this is, things, as you know, with Kappa have changed. We no longer have regions or provinces, and so it's now districts. So as that change is happening and things are rolling out, I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning process for all of us, for sure for me, because philanthropy is new to me. I served most recently as the fraternity public relations chairman for the last 4 years. So I'm excited to kind of get into this other area, but it is kind of new, so I hope that we can all just learn from each other together. So some things we wanted to cover tonight, expectations of the philanthropy specialist, Kappa's philanthropy strategy, a little bit about RIF and some interesting and cool links to things on the RIF website, the foundation, a little bit about participating in other groups' philanthropy projects or chapters. That's more of a chapter thing than an association thing. How risk management is related to philanthropy. A little bit about reporting, the chapter philanthropy report and the leadership consultant reports. Some trends that I've seen, and also Carol Sanders has mentioned to me on our training calls. And some next steps to get going before as we all jump into these roles. And again, at any time, you can feel free to type those questions in, and we'll also leave some time at the end for the questions as well. So one thing that Carol Sanders told me, and I think I mentioned this in one of my initial emails to all of you, was that she said she called philanthropy the best job in Kappa, and it's because it's all positive, and it's all being a cheerleader for chapters and associations, and really just kind of being excited for their philanthropic efforts, whether it's fundraising or a service project or whatever. It's just a fun, you get to really see these groups do wonderful things. So I totally agree with her. I think it sounds like a great part of Kappa. And this is the team. Some of you may know some of the others, maybe not. I know that the Kappa yellow pages will be updated with all of you if it's not already. And I know some of you have already set up your Kappa emails, and some of you are maybe having a little technical issues or haven't had a chance to do that yet. So I will continue to send the emails to both the philanthropy distribution list as well as to the original email address for a little while as we transition to that. It's a big transition for me too, because I've used Gmail. I use Gmail for my regular, my work email, and I've had a Kappa Gmail account for years and years. And so for me to have this Kappa.org email address is a bit of a learning curve for me. It's just very different to go back to Outlook from Gmail. But I'm trying. So a little bit about the expectations of a philanthropy specialist, and this is taken directly from the job description, which again I sent to you when I had approached each of you to take on this role. So just to kind of go through briefly some of this, and I think some of this is really TBD as well. Some of these things might sound less familiar than others. So guide and educate chapters, associations, and advisors in the fraternity's philanthropic efforts. Maintain expert knowledge of fraternity philanthropy expectations, and act as a primary resource for philanthropy. But of course, if there's something that you don't know, you can always refer it up to me as well. Communicate with chapter philanthropy chairman and alumni association philanthropy officers. Keep your district director and content director of philanthropy informed with appropriate correspondence. Collaborate with your district team on a regular basis. I know that some of you have received emails from your district, those in your district team. So it says including biannual evaluations of each chapter. So I think that's kind of a work in progress. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be done just yet, but provide Kappa-specific training in the area of philanthropy to philanthropy chairman, advisors, and association officers if possible, and then collaborate with content director, philanthropy, and specialists to develop and provide philanthropy training. A few of you have already asked me about if there are any expectations for travel with this role, and some of you I know live in the district in which you serve, and some of you do not. You may live in an adjacent district. You may live in something that's maybe 2 districts over from where you live is where you're serving, or vice versa. So there is no expectation for travel with this role. If you live in an area where you are close to a chapter or to an association and you want to go visit them, you either want to participate in their philanthropy event or you'd like to, say, meet with the philanthropy chairman and her committee. If it's a chapter, you are for sure welcome to do that. But just because of the way this role is designed and because, again, these content areas, it's really meant to be a manageable role. So you're focusing on philanthropy. It's meant to be manageable. It's not meant to be overwhelming. And so if you want to visit a chapter association, feel free, but there is no expectation for that. And sometimes, logistically, it's not going to be feasible for some of you because of where you live. So, having said that, though, actually, I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, Kappa's philanthropy strategy. So, a few things what we focus on. So, number one, support RIF and children's literacy. We are now in the 10th year of having RIF as our philanthropy partner. So that's one strategy, one of the areas for philanthropy. And then, of course, if chapters and associations have particular interests, charities, or anything in their community that they support, then that's something else that they can do as well. A signature fundraising event should be held each year with the proceeds divided between RIF, the foundation, and your local charities or local organizations. And host at least one service-based event, such as Reading is Key. And we'll talk about Reading is Key and the parts, the components of a Reading is Key event in a little bit when we start talking specifically about RIF. Let me check my questions pane here. Uh-oh. I keep getting kicked off the phone. Okay, sorry about that, Lois. I'm sorry if those other people are having audio issues. I usually call in because I feel like the speaker and microphone, it cuts out sometimes for people, so hopefully nobody else is having audio issues. Sorry if you are. I know that's frustrating. Okay, so if you should be receiving chapter minutes, you can ask the chapter to send them to you if you're not receiving them. But just if you happen to be looking at the minutes, some things to look for in the chapter minutes. The new member chairman should cover philanthropy and what Kappa's philanthropic efforts are in the new member meeting for. So she should be talking about the foundation and about RIF and about any local organizations that the chapter supports. If you're looking at the minutes, if they come across your desk and you have time to do that, look for mention of philanthropy events. What are they doing? Is it mostly fundraising? Are they doing service events as well? Look for any mention of RIF. And if you see something fabulous in the minutes, definitely email it to, pass it along to, you can send it just to socialmedia@kkg.org. Because that way you could just forward it or just give them a blurb or an FYI, because we're always looking to spotlight great things that chapters are doing in all areas, and for sure philanthropy. So if you see something really cool, pass it along so we can always give them a shout out on Twitter or on Facebook, or they might want to follow up and get more information or photos from the event. And as I mentioned, I was the fraternity public relations chairman, and a lot of chapters and associations would submit great photos from philanthropy events. And as they come across, you can for sure encourage the groups to do that as well. And as they come across, we'll share them on the social media feeds. And risk management, we'll talk about risk management and philanthropy in a second as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, so RIF is headquartered in DC, and it's been our philanthropy partner since 2004. I know over the years, and I have all her contact information on there. Jennifer Moon is wonderful. She is a great point of contact for any RIF questions. She's super, super responsive. You can feel free to give her contact info to any chapter or alumni association, and they can reach out to her directly. She says she fields lots of emails and questions directly from associations and chapters, so they don't it doesn't need to go through us and have it be forwarded to her. They can just email her directly. That's fine. But we were talking, I had coffee with her last week, and we were just kind of talking about RIF and how it's viewed and the challenges. And we did recognize, and we were talking about the fact that there are other Greek organizations that have their philanthropy, their national philanthropy may be breast cancer or leukemia or whatever. And so it's with RIF, I think the main buy-in and getting chapters and associations to really buy into RIF and really want to support it is that it's more than book donations. And book donations are a part of it for sure, but it's really about that. If any of you, those of you that were at convention this summer, it's really about that, making that connection between children that don't have access to books and what happens to them and how they fall behind and how it can really affect their socioeconomic status, and it can affect so many other things in their life. So that's really, I think, the crux of RIF and why it's so important, why literacy is so important. So if you go to RIF.org, you can sign up for a newsletter. It's I'm not sure how often it comes out, maybe every couple weeks or so. I'm not sure it's weekly, but you can sign up for the email newsletter. You can encourage your chapters and associations to do that too. And there are lots of great ideas on the RIF website. There is something called Kappa Book Pack. Some of you may be familiar with that as well. You can, and again, those of you at convention, if you saw Carol Sanders' presentation, she talked about this. They're specific books that were picked for Kappa. There's one that's about an owl. So there's some things that really have a good connection to Kappa. And it's $100 for 10 hardback books, $25 for 10 paperback titles. So it's another way for groups to get involved if they're doing a Reading is Key event and they want to, give out paperback books to everybody there, or if they'd like to donate a hardback set to an underserved school or classroom, etc. So I talked about the Reading is Key event a little bit, and so it's encouraged and really strongly encouraged that chapters do this yearly, and associations can do it yearly as well. And there are 3 components to a Reading is Key event. The first one is that it should focus on the needs of it should be for underserved children, ideally those from kindergarten to 3rd grade. There needs to be a live reading with activities and crafts, and a choice of a book to take home. And Carol's was mentioned to me that that's really the important thing. It's not just like you're handing a book, it's giving them a choice of a book to take home to make it more meaningful to them. Some of you that have been working as specialists already and have been doing this for a little while now, you may be familiar with a RIF/Macys event that happens every year. You can find out information about this by going to, I'm sorry, it's RIF.org, not RIF.com. That's a typo on my part. RIF.org/LRP. And it's going to be a little bit different this year. I know some associations support this and individual members. It used to be that proceeds from Macys purchases would go only to RIF. Now starting this year, RIF is only one of a handful of charities and causes that are receiving the proceeds. So this may affect the level to which Kappas want to participate in it this year, but just as an FYI. So the way it works is from August 31st to December 31st, when you shop at Macys and you use your credit card and you enroll in this program for $25, Macys will donate $10 to select charities, and customers you'll get a card for 10% of your spending back, and you get that card in February. So you can find out all the details about that event on, again, RIF.org/LRP. So it is changed a little bit than last year's event, and Jennifer mentioned this to me when I met with her, that it is a little bit different this year. So. Okay, so we talked about RIF. So the Kappa Foundation is another important part of the Kappa philanthropic effort. And so each year, chapters, associations, and individual members are encouraged to donate to the foundation. And those of you that go to any Kappa events, convention, and regional meetings and everything, there's always a chance to donate to the foundation. Some of you are familiar with what it's used for. So basically 4 areas. So it's used for the confidential aid, Rose McGill, and the holiday program, undergraduate and graduate scholarships, museums, with the Heritage Museum at headquarters, as well as the Stewart House. And a little fun factoid there, Kappa is the only Greek organization that owns a Founders House, which I think is pretty cool. And then education and training. So the Kappa Trainers, Girls Academy, and Leadership Academy, those are all funded through the Kappa Foundation. So in terms of participating in other groups' philanthropy events, and this is really, I think this is a challenge on the chapter side. It's not really so much on the association side, but you can't do everything. So the big thing is to watch about over-programming your members, and so chapters need to be just aware of the fact that they need to be supporting RIF and the foundation and whatever causes that local causes, local organizations, and if they're in Sigma Chi Derby Days and all these other things, that it's really going to be an over-programming issue. So it should be part of the Pan-Atlantic discussion each year on campus, just because everybody's has great causes, of course, but it's really difficult for everybody to participate in all of them. So the point is also to be selective or be creative. They can do something maybe smaller than participate to a larger degree. They could make a sign, buy a newspaper ad, bake something, give some time versus give money, but make it manageable and make it so that it doesn't become one more thing that they have to do in addition to everything else. So some risk management, which is not philosophy, it's philanthropy. I apologize, another typo there. Risk management and philanthropy. There is a form on the Kappa website. It's CPY-F, and it's risk management procedures for philanthropic events. And this really is related to things like run races, 5Ks, golfing, any kind of athletic event where there could be injuries and that kind of thing. So it's a great form. It's a great checklist to go through. Just a couple of the points on there, and these are all laid out in that form. So you might want to take a look at it, download it, keep a copy of it, and that way if any chapters have or associations have questions or need the form, you can point them in the right direction or send it along to them. And also it's just kind of an FYI about what it covers. So number one, there should no alcohol before, during, or after anything philanthropy related. And the chapter or association should send contracts at least 3 weeks before the event to the district risk management specialist. The venue may require a certificate of insurance. If it's something that's it's a physical activity, again, a race or something, you need to make sure that there's some kind of medical personnel on hand to deal with any injuries. Any flyers or any social media posts should list all groups that will benefit from the event and mention the event is alcohol-free. Athletic events should mention the possibility of injury, and then talks a little about getting written permission for courses. There's a whole section about golf events, because golf events, huge event, it's a lot of chapters will do golf events for their philanthropy. They're very, very popular. And the thing with golf events, alcohol is, I know it's depending on the rules of the club. A lot of clubs, if it's a dad's golf outing and they want to bring alcohol on the course, so we need to stress that these are alcohol-free events because of our risk management policies and just the risk of lawsuits and all that. So again, that form CPY-F, super helpful, and it goes through checklists, lots of different things, covers lots of bases. Chapter philanthropy report. What's interesting is I'm still getting these. They're due May 1st, but Carol told me that May 1st deadline just seems to fly by, and I don't think chapters see it as maybe crucial as other reports that they need to fill out, or maybe not. They don't think that it needs to be as timely. So I just got 2 over the weekend. So you should be getting them as well, because I noticed the ones that I received, they were copied. There was a copy for the district and then also for the philanthropy content specialist. So take a look at them. There's some interesting things in there. It'll tell you what the chapter did. It'll tell you how much money they raised, how much they gave to the foundation, and you can for sure read it, reach out to the chapter with any questions, red flags, and congratulate them on their successes as well. Because I think, again, there's so many great things that our members do for philanthropy. So, and they do that event or that report through Key Reports. So, but again, the May 1st is the deadline, the technical deadline, but I think they're just kind of doing them all year round whenever they do them. I would just rather have them, they do them than not do them, even if it's not by May 1st. And then leadership consultant reports. So when a chapter gets a leadership consultant visit, the leadership consultant fills out the report and submits that. So you can access these reports by going to the link there and looking for documents enabled LC visit report. They're very long, so as an RDC, I looked at those and they're very lengthy. But as a philanthropy specialist, the areas you might want to look at are philanthropy, obviously, but then risk management, current and future needs, and strengths and concerns. And if there's anything that seems to be philanthropy related or participation related, you can feel free to follow up with the chapter. Okay, some trends related to philanthropy. Carol told me that, back to that Reading is Key event that I mentioned, the chapters are not really holding this every year. I think sometimes they're feeling a little overwhelmed by the whole thing, and she said that you can for sure be creative. So the live reading component can be, she mentioned even having having a librarian come in, having she even said like a fireman or somebody in the community. So I think that's one trend, is that they're not, for whatever reason, whether they're seeing it as overwhelming or they're not really understanding the components of a Reading is Key event, it's not happening every year. She said that there is a trend of these turnkey fundraising companies that have monthly merchandise contracts. They're reaching out to headquarters, to our chapters and associations, wanting to pitch their business and receive our endorsement. Chapters contribute more financially to group causes on their campus and given to the foundation or to Reading is Key events. So again, that goes back to having a balance between your own group's efforts as well as other groups on campus. Chapter philanthropy reports are filed year-round, like we just mentioned. But on the flip side, chapters are planning and executing super creative fundraising events, which is great. Okay, so some next steps related to your office. So if you haven't set up the Kappa email address, that'd be great if you could do that. If you're having any technical issues, you can feel free to reach out to Sean at headquarters. But again, I will keep sending it to both email addresses for a little while so you don't miss anything. And one thing that I almost forgot to do was to update then my profile on the Kappa website, because what they do is they use whatever email address you have in there, and that'll be like the one that, if you get things forwarded, reports, the philanthropy report or whatever email address you have in that profile on the website is the one that headquarters will use to send you information. So update that when you get a chance. I know I've been getting a lot of copied on your intro letters to your chapters and associations, so I really appreciate you working on that. So if you haven't gotten around to them yet, if you need a little more time, that's fine. I know I put, I guess, today as the deadline, but I totally understand if you need a little bit more time. So If you haven't already, it would be helpful to look at the philanthropy webinar from last year. You can get to it several ways. You can either go to YouTube/Kappa Kappa Gamma and then search for philanthropy, and it will come right up. You can also look on the website under Philanthropy Chairman Resources and find a link to it there as well. It's just called Philanthropy Chairman Webinar. I'd also recommend familiarizing yourself with the resources that are available on the RIF website, because again, if you just kind of poke around there, if you have a couple minutes sometime to look at the activities that are on there, the ideas, it's a great resource for groups if they're planning a reading is key or any other kind of literacy event, or a book, book drive, or if they want information about those Kappa book packs I mentioned. So it's a really helpful website. And then if you go back to the Kappa website, there's the chapter Philanthropy Resources, so you can download the leadership guide. There's information about RIF and Kappa and our partnership. There is information about it's like the Alumni Association manual, which has some information about philanthropy. So those are all good to have. Either, I don't know, if you don't want to save them on your computer, maybe just know where to find them on the Kappa website in case you need to refer to something. But I just keep a copy. Like I have folders, and I just have one for chapter resources, one for association resources, and different folders. And it's just a way of organizing it and keeping it there in case I need to refer to something. Because again, I'm learning as I go with this as well, and I like to have as many resources as possible available to me. So we will be doing some check-in calls. I know I've talked to some of you on the phone already, and that's awesome. And I would like to talk to the rest of you within the next month, which would be great, just to see how things are going, to see, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you have any glaring questions, and if you want to talk to me sooner, please feel free to email or text me, and we can set up a phone call. Thank you so much to those of you that have sent and confirmed your contact information and told me the way that you prefer to be contacted. Again, you can feel free to either email me, you can text me. I have my phone with me all the time, as we all do, I know, but texting, if it's a quick question, texting is probably the easiest. And otherwise, if it's something that's not so timely, you can email me or call my cell. You can call my home too, but and all that information is in the Kappa Yellow pages. Okay, so we talked about that there is no expectation for travel because of logistics and all that. I did want to point out, though, that the dates for the Kappa Leadership Conferences, which basically replace the regional meetings, which replaced the province meetings. So these are the dates. They're going to be next March and next April. However, there is not a budget to send me or to send the specialist. However, if you want to attend, you are more than welcome to do that. It would be at your own expense. If you happen to live close by and you want to just pop in for the day, that would be great. They will be doing a at each meeting. They'll be doing a service project on Saturday night, and it's going to be a RIF related. We're still working on the details, but it's going to be a RIF project. We'll be doing book collections, and there'll be a craft, and there'll be then donations to schools and other underserved. It depends on the location where it will be donated. But if you are going to be going to any of those and you live in the area and you can pop by, and as it gets closer, I'll mention this as well. But it would be really great if you could coordinate the donation, and that doesn't mean that you need to actually do it, but find somebody to be able to take all the books to a location. So that's kind of a TBD right now, and it's just an FYI. So we'll find more information about these as it goes on, and it's not till next spring, but I'm going to try to go to the Pittsburgh one, I think, so that'll be fun. Okay, so let me go back and take a look and see if we have questions here. Okay, so after having gone through what we've gone through, the agenda, I'm going to give you a minute to see if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me right now. Otherwise, I am going to assume that you don't, or maybe you actually would rather just email me the questions, or kind of need to get a feel for things and then contact me as well. So I'll just give you a second to see if you think of anything. Are there blank contacts contracts, sorry, this is from Catherine, are there blank contracts and or liability release forms that chapters can access? That is a great question, and I have not seen one, but that does not mean for sure that it doesn't exist. So let me check on that, and I can get back to you. I'll just send an email to everybody about that. Because I'm thinking that, it really depends on the venue, and, that they probably have their own form, but that's maybe not necessarily correct, so I'll find out about that for you. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so this is from Lois. Do we call Sean with all of our tech needs? Yeah, if it's related to anything with your Kappa email address or the Kappa website or access to the cloud, yes. If it's specific, so if it's truly technology related, then yes, you can contact Sean. If it's more like I was emailing Sarah Bowman the other day because I wasn't sure how to filter something in key reports to, I wanted to be able to pull out all the philanthropy chairmen, just them, and not all the officers, and I was having a hard time with that. So if it's something that's more like, and Sean might be able to help you with that as well, but I thought I emailed her and she help me. So, but for straight tech needs, yes, contact Sean. Do chapters, okay, Catherine, do chapters need to submit anything to our insurance agency prior to events? To our insurance agency? No, but my understanding is if they have any questions, well, I think some of the events may require a certificate of insurance. I remember reading that. So, and if so, then there is a contact for MJ in our in the yellow pages. So again, that depends on the venue, depends on the event. But if they do require a certificate of insurance, we can get that. And if you do have questions that are related to risk management and philanthropy, for sure you can reach out to the risk management specialist in your district as well, because there is some crossover for sure with philanthropy and risk management. But if you have any questions, they're a great resource because that's totally what they do, risk management. All right, I think that's all the questions. Make sure. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really, really am looking forward to working with each of you, and please feel free to let me know at any time any questions. I will follow up about these questions, and if you think of anything after the webinar, email, text, or anything else. And thank you again so much for agreeing to serve in this role, or agreeing to continue to serve in this role for some of you. And I look forward to a great year. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.